Welcome to everybody to this evening's webinar. So just briefly, I'm going to introduce Louise now, somebody who I was very fortunate to meet probably a couple of years ago now, I think, at a couple of events in Denmark that I was fortunate to attend. And also Bodil, who we've just seen, who I'm sure we'll see again at the end. But the focus at the moment is on Bodil doing what she needs to do, so Louise can do what she needs to do. And I think these sort of sessions are fantastic, the way the internet can allow us to hear different voices in a way that might be pretty difficult for us to listen to it in other ways. And I think Louise's session, understanding this idea about sensory issues and about that personal journey and lived experience, I think is always something I'm really keen to hear. So I absolutely no doubt this is going to be a fantastic session. I'll probably just leave it like that and let Louise just explain a little bit about herself as she goes through the session, I'm sure. Any problems at all, please do just drop it in the chat, and Rachel, my colleague who's online, probably not myself, will try and sort out. If there's any practical stuff, I'm going to be here, but I will switch my camera off when Louise is presenting. So if that's okay, I'm going to hand over to you, Louise, and look forward to hearing it as we go along.
Thank you. I'll just get someone to help me share my slides. I hope everyone can hear me, and I hope that everyone can see my slides, and I hope everything will work. Now, my name is Louise. I'm 43 years old, and I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, as it was called back then. I just say autism now, at age 17, following years and years of depression and an eating disorder. Now, obviously, English is not my native language, and so I apologize in advance if I stumble a little bit in this, because yeah, it's not my first lecture in English, but the last time I did it was more than 10 years ago. So we'll just do it. Yeah. Yeah. I was born and raised in a small village in Denmark, where I went to regular school, so not a special ed school. It was a small school. It was a village school that there was 100 students in the entire school from 1st to 7th grade, which is probably why I was diagnosed so late at age 17, because I sort of went under the radar because I was in this small and secure environment. But I still, from a very early age, had a very high degree of self-destructive behavior. I was cutting myself. I had serious depressions because I felt that I didn't fit in with my peers. This culminated in an eating disorder, which then got me sent to a child psychiatry unit, where I was diagnosed at age 17, as I said. At age 20, I moved into a share home, an institution, call it what you want, where I lived for 2.5 years before I moved to my own apartment in the city where I live today. I don't have a regular job. I'm like a pension I have, so the state sort of pays for me to do nothing. I don't know if you have anything like that where you are, but no one is happy just walking by themselves in their own apartment all day. So I have a job at a veterinarian clinic a few hours a week, and then I do these speakings, which I've done since 2002, so that's a very long time. I have a blog, obviously in Danish, so far at least, and then I've written 5 books about my experiences with autism, the latest of which came out this year in April. Yes, so I keep busy, is what I'm trying to say. Now we're going to be talking about sensory sensitivity today. And why are we going to talk about sensory sensitivity? That's because, well, first I'll just do a disclaimer here. I'm not an educated person. I have no education within autism or psychology or anything. So I speak from my own point of view only. I cannot tell you how people with autism feel. I can tell you how I feel, and hope that this rings a bell with you. Yes, we're going to be talking about sensory issues. And why is that? That's because, at least from my perspective, if you want to understand my autism, you have to understand my sensory issues. Because for me, my sensory issues are the biggest issue in my everyday life from my autism. Because the thing is, our sensory system with autistics is just different. Many people ask me how I found out that I had sensory issues, and the thing is that I didn't find out that I had them. I found out that the rest of you doesn't have them. Because when I got my diagnosis and I read about sensory issues, I started asking people, well, does that mean that you can't hear this, 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 and this, and this? And they all said, well, maybe I can, but I don't notice. And I was like, you don't? So I really discovered that the rest of you don't see and hear and feel the things that I do. Now, as I said, my entry to my autism diagnosis was through an eating disorder. And my last book was also about eating disorders and eating issues combined with autism. And I think that if we're to understand the combination of eating disorders and autism, we also first and foremost have to look at sensory issues. It's a big issue here. And I'll come back to this later in the presentation. Now, the senses, we have, like I usually say, the 5 traditional senses and the 2 others. And we're going to start with 2 others. Actually, we have 3 others, but I'll come back to that. We'll start with the 2 others. And that's the vestibular. I don't know if I say that right. That's the balance. Now, the balance is one of the senses that can actually be trained. Many people think that autistic people should just be trained out of their sensory issues. Usually it can't be done, but you can actually train your balance and make it better. Now, this has never been a big issue for me because I grew up with horses. I was riding when I was a teenager, and so training my balance has been a big part of my life. So it's never been an issue with poor balance. But I do know that it's also this sense that causes motion sickness. And this is a fairly big issue for me. Mostly I make sure to sit on the front seat if I'm driving. But seasickness is really a problem for me. And so far I've just solved it by not sailing. So that's a way to do it. But then I got a boyfriend on the Greek island of Samos. And he had a boat, and he would like to bring me on a boat trip. And I felt a little bit bad saying no, so I went. And perhaps I shouldn't have done, because I felt very, very bad. Now, he said to me, you just have to come up here and steer the boat, and then you won't be sick. And I was like, no. I know myself well enough to know that if I steer the boat and there is just one single iceberg in the Mediterranean, I'm going to find it, and I'm going to hit it, and I'm going to crash your boat. So I didn't want to steer his boat, but he kept saying, come on, you just have to steer the boat, and then you'll feel better. And so I did. I got up and I steered the boat, and he said, you just have to look at the horizon and then steer the boat from that. And it actually worked. So there's a solution. If someone gets motion sickness on the ferry, you just go to the captain and say, look, my autistic son is motion sickness. Will you please get out of your seat so he can steer the ferry? Well, probably not such a good idea anyway. I know that there are bracelets and pills and everything you can take for motion sickness, but I haven't tried anything that has worked. So if anyone has a miracle cure, please let me know. Mostly I just don't sail. Then we have to move on to also a very difficult word, proprioception, I think. It's also called, in Denmark, we also call it the muscle and joint sense. I usually call it my body sense. The ability to feel where I am in the room. And this is very difficult for me without stimuli. So usually I have something in my hands. I don't know if you can see me as well as the slides, but usually I have something in my hands that I can sort of fiddle with, because if I don't fiddle with something with my hands, then I can't feel my hands. I can't feel where they end. So if I don't look at them and I don't fiddle with something, then I don't know where my hands is. My hands is the worst spot, my hands and feet, that I can feel. The good thing about the feet is that you stand on them, so usually I can feel where they are. But generally, I have difficulty feeling where I end. And this is very, this can cause a lot of anxiety, not being able to feel where you are in the room and where your body ends. It's like my skin is fluent, if that makes sense to you, because it's like I'm not defined properly by my skin, because I can't really feel where I end. I don't know if this makes sense for you. Some people solve this by wearing like tights, like tight clothes. So it's easier to feel where they end if the clothes is a little bit too tight. Now, I really have problems with tight clothes. So I usually wear very loose fitting clothes. I have some special clothes that I only use in my home. I call it my home clothes, which is very ugly and very large. I mean, size XL t-shirts and some sweatpants that are really big, because when I move, the fabric goes like this on my skin. So I can feel my skin and I can feel where I end. Also, every night I sleep with a weighted blanket, because this gives me a feeling of security. It calms the anxiety down, because it defines my body. This is where my body is. I can feel it under this weighted blanket, and it helps a lot to feel where I end. But I am the sort of person who can always show you a wide range of bruises and marks and cuts and scrapes, because I always walk into things, simply because I cannot feel where I end. And this is even worse if I go to a supermarket and I go with do you call them trolleys? The wagon you go to put your groceries in. I tear things down from the shelves, and if I wear a backpack, it's even worse. I mean, old ladies get broken ankle when I go shopping by myself. So it's really something I have to be aware of and check with my eyes. Because the funny thing is, I have recently, by the way, gotten a driver's license, and I have absolutely no problems navigating my car in traffic. So, but I think it's because I never bump into anything in my car. I think it's because I compensate and use my eyes extra. And maybe I just have to do the same when it comes to my body, not trust so much that I can feel where I am, but check with my eyes that I am where I am. Moving on to my sense of smell. Now, this is a lecture I've had for a few years, and so my note says I don't have any problems, but really I do. It's just that this thing about sensory issues it's an ongoing process, discovering your own sensory issues. So things show up and things get better, and it's not really a static situation. It's developing all the time. I do have issues with my sense of smell, usually with like artificial smells, like chemical smells. So I would always prefer someone smelling of sweat instead of perfume, for example. And I think the worst smell in the entire world is fabric softener. I mean, I've once stopped dated a man because he used fabric softener, and I just couldn't stand being close to him because his clothes was, in my view, stinking absolutely dreadfully. Also, when I go running, I prefer running past a field where they've spread out manure instead of a field where they've spread out like chemical insecticide. So that's my issue, but I know that some people feel very differently about this, and especially the whole social aspect of not being able to stand other people's body odor is an issue. I think, not speaking for myself, but I think is very common for autistic people. And so if you work with autistic people, it must be very difficult navigating from one autistic person to the next, because the first one doesn't want you to smell like perfume, and the second one doesn't want you to smell like sweat. and the third one, and so on and so on. So what do you do when you work with people with autism who has such a sensitive sense of smell? And my advice must be try to smell as little as possible. I mean, maybe bring an extra t-shirt so you can change t-shirt and just rub a little bit under your arm, but no perfume and no very smelly like shampoo or something. That's my advice, but obviously that's for each individual to figure out for themselves. But it can be a problem socially if an autistic people feel like someone's body odor is if they feel with body odor the way that I feel with fabric softener, where you almost cannot be in the same room with someone, then it has a very negative effect on your social life, because there's not so many places you can go where you cannot smell other people. This is also a huge issue when it comes to food and eating disorders. When my eating disorder is like bad, it's on off. But when it's bad, I get anxiety from smelling, especially very fatty food, because my eating disorder tells me that smelling something with so much fat the smell can actually get the calories inside my body and make me fat. So it was a huge issue for me when I was a teenager and my eating disorder was at its worst, to just be in a room where I could smell the food. Yeah. And talking about food, let's move on to the sense of taste. I'm assuming that since I am not hearing anything from anyone, that everything is working. So I'll just keep talking unless you interrupt me. Yep. Thank you, Garrett. Sense of taste here. I've written an entire book about eating issues and autism. So there should be a lot of things to talk about here. Now my book about eating disorders has one long chapter about sensory issues, and I think 11 pages or something. And the last half page of those 11 pages is about taste. So viewing like the experience of food as only taste when it comes to people with autism is just too limited. Most of my food issues and taste issues has nothing to do with the actual taste of things. It has something to do with the texture, or whether it's hot food or sweet food or something other than the taste itself. There's really not much food that I don't like the taste of, but there's a lot of food that I cannot eat because the texture is wrong. So if you have someone in your life with autism that doesn't want to eat or can't eat certain food, instead of just thinking, well, he's picky and he doesn't like the taste of this, maybe think, could we do something else here? Could we put some ketchup on it, or serve it raw or something, like change the texture and try to play a little bit with, I know they say you can play with the food, which you really should in this case. I have issues with hot food. Not spicy food. I really like garlic and curry, and I like spicy food, and I even like it a little bit much, and that has something to do with interoception, and I'll return to that. But food that burns is a no-go for me. So like when I go and have a sandwich made, I mean, if there's just a quarter of a jalapenos within 2 feet of my sandwich, I'm not going to eat it. I mean, it's really an aversion I have to this burning feeling, like chili and jalapenos, and it's not for me. But it's also the cold burn. So even strong mint, it also burns. It just burns cold. It's the same thing. I can't. Food shouldn't hurt, and burns, whether they're hot or cold, they hurt, and I just can't eat them. And then I have a very high preference for sweet food. Pia, my friend who's helping me here today, she says this has something to do with my interoception, that things has to be very extreme in their taste for me to be able to taste them. On the other hand, I feel the same way about sour food, like I feel about hot food, like no lemons in my Coke, no limes in my Coke. I don't want anything that makes my mouth go like this, because it's just painful for me. It's not even that I don't like it. It's really painful for me. So the sweeter the better. Even sour candy I cannot eat, because it makes me purse my mouth in that uncomfortable way. So the sweeter the better, and I really mean that. I'm someone who can take like a bottle of syrup and drink it from the bottle and think, well, this could actually be sweeter, yeah. So then I also have a preference when it comes to hot food, or I mean warm food, or cold food, and I really prefer cold food. And this means that I cook 3 times a week, and then I cook large meals, so I have them in my fridge. And some people would then on day 2 warm up their meal and eat it, but I eat it cold directly from the fridge. And it doesn't matter if it's pork roast or lasagna or whatever it is. On day 2 I always eat it cold. I really prefer cold food, not ice cold, but just chilled cold food. And the thing is, if you could live off breakfast products morning, noon, and night, then I would do that. That would just be so much easier. So this is also a thing you could experiment with if someone has food issues. Try to experience with serving things hot or cold, or sweet or sour or whatever. Just play a little bit with it. The last thing I want to mention here is texture. Texture is really a big deal for me. Much more important for me than taste is the texture of the food in my mouth. I usually say that I cannot eat soup, and people in the audience always go like, well, that's because you haven't tasted my mother's wonderful tomato soup. But it's not that I don't like soup, it's that I cannot eat it. I cannot stand the texture in my mouth. Now, a kind neighbor once invited me to dinner, and she served soup. I had told her this, but she'd forgotten, and I felt I didn't want to be impolite and not eat it when she'd invited me to dinner. And so we came up with the solution of taking some bread and slicing it, and then I dipped the bread in the soup, and then I could eat the soup because it changed the texture. I ate it through the bread. So texture is very important to me. I like to eat my things as the more I have to chew, the better. I really like to chew. So like when I was a child, we were usually served some meat and then boiled potatoes and boiled vegetables. And to this, I'm sure I was described as picky when I was a child, but I really am not. I love vegetables. You just don't boil them because then they get all mushy and sticky in your mouth. I eat a lot of vegetables and I eat them all raw. And usually people say, don't you want some dressing on your salad? No, I don't want some dressing to ruin my salad because that will make the leaves of the salad all mushy. I want them crunchy. So yeah, that's the thing. So I know this was supposed to be all about taste, but I really don't have many issues about taste. They're about everything else than taste. Moving on to my sense of hearing. This is for me the absolute like worst sensory issues I have are the ones I have with my hearing, and really I don't know if they are because I have fairly severe sensory issues on my side as well. But nature has provided us with eyelids, which means that when I close my eyes I cannot see anything. But we don't have a similar contraption for our ears. So it doesn't matter how far I stick my fingers inside my ears, I can still hear something. I can hear like my own heartbeat and the blood, and I can hear this whooshing sound, and you can always hear something. And so I think maybe I just perceive my sensory issues on my hearing to be worse because I cannot turn them off ever. Yeah, my hearing works in a way where I hear every sound equally loud. I don't really have like a volume that says that the volume control that says this sound is far away, so it sounds the volume of that is lower than the sounds close by. All sounds in my head are equally loud and also equally important. I don't have a filter in my brains that says this is just a bird. You don't have to. This bird has nothing to do with you. You don't have to pay any attention to that. I pay attention to everything, and I hear everything. And this can be incredibly stressful, and it takes a lot of daily energy just navigating in a world where I have to constantly think about sounds and sensory issues that has absolutely nothing to do with me because I cannot block them out. This is particularly challenging to me when I do what most people just take for granted and go to the supermarket. for me, the supermarket is like, I usually say that if I was a religious person and I didn't behave well, then when I died, I would go to a supermarket. So that's literally my idea of hell, is going to a supermarket. Because do you know how many sounds are in a supermarket? Next time you go to a supermarket, close your eyes, stand still, close your eyes, and count how many sounds can I hear right now. And then imagine being able, not the volume, not this is loud and this is loud, just how many different sounds can I hear right now. And then imagine being able to hear all those sounds equally loud all the time in the entire supermarket. I don't think many non-autistic neurotypical people really pay attention to just how many sounds there are. It's like high heel shoes. There are the refrigerators that go that hums. There's candy bags that goes that has this cracking noise. There's people talking. There's this radio that somehow has to be on in every single room in our society. We have to listen to some radio, and I really don't care about listening to the radio when I'm in the supermarket. I mean, every single sound all the time, equally loud. So it's very draining for me to go to just do grocery shopping, and I only do it once a week, and I have to do it on a day where I don't go to work, because there's just not energy enough to go to work when I also have to go to the supermarket. Now, I also spent years ago a lot of time in a gym, and also a very stressful place for me to be. There was, again, a loud radio, because strong people apparently cannot lift anything if Taylor Swift doesn't sing along in the background. So there's a loud radio, even though every single person in the gym had their own headphones on. Anyway, there are machines that hums. There's strong people, they can lift, but apparently they cannot put the weight down without throwing it down, making huge banging noises in the gym. And so when I was a member there, and this was before the time when everybody was wearing like the big earmuffs, I wore my my earmuffs to protect my hearing, and it cost quite a lot of attention in the beginning, at least, that I came with my big noise cancelling headphones. I was also accused when I was a child of listening by the doors. I mean, going like this, sneaking around listening, because when I passed the door, like if I went from my room and to the bathroom, and I passed the doors to the living room, I could hear easily what was being said on the other side of the door. So this was, I was scolded a lot when I was a child, because they thought I was listening when they had private conversations. Socially, it can be a great disability to have like a hearing like mine, because when you like are invited to a birthday party and they have like 90 people in a room meant for only 30 people, and what is it that we do when we are social? We talk and we eat. And the problem is that in a room with 90 people who all talk and all eat, I can hear 90 people talking and eating. And I know that there's been a lot of theories about why people with autism have such poor eye contact. And in my case, it's because that I simply have to lip read people when I'm out in public, because if I don't lip read the person I'm talking with, I can just as easily answer a question from the other side of the room, because the volume of the questions are the same. So I usually lip read, and if it doesn't really match, then I go, huh? I think many people also thought in the beginning that maybe my hearing was not so good, because I always went, huh, huh, huh. Also, I speak very loud, and that's because I have to speak louder than all the sounds that I can hear, but the rest of the world can't hear them. Anyway, but this is how I've coped most of my life, is just by lip reading people when and still it takes a huge amount of energy for me to be out socially. This is also because, just excuse me for a minute. Sorry, my dog was just misbehaving. Where was I? I was at the birthday party. Now, this is also made more difficult by the fact that, like I said, not only do we talk when we're social together, we also eat. And here are two of the worst sounds in the whole world. One of them is cutlery on china when your grandma is trying to cut off her roast beef. And the second one is the smacking made from like when you eat. If you don't close your mouth when you eat, and a lot of people really don't do that. Now, this is something important because I'm going to talk about something called, I don't know what it's called in English actually, misophonia, which is like, did I say that right? It's a condition where you have people with misophonia have like trigger sounds. And those trigger sounds affect your amygdala in the brain. This is as far as I know anyway. And it causes an extreme anxiety reaction. For some people, it's the sound of people cracking their knuckles. I mean, some people can get completely aggressive when they hear it, and they really cannot help it. But my trigger sound is the smacking of mouth and nose, you know, those wet sounds from mouth and nose. And this is really a problem because I work at a veterinarian clinic, and one of the most popular dog breeds in Denmark is the French Bulldog. And it goes like this when it breathes. And yeah, I'm a very gentle and kind and loving person, but I can really kill those dogs. And because the anxiety reaction from my brain from hearing that sound is so extreme. And I've actually tried more than once that I had to go to tell my colleagues that I cannot do my job today because we had a French Bulldog that was more extreme in its breathing, or if we didn't have another room, we could put the Bulldog in. So I could. It was physically too uncomfortable for me to do my job that day. So it's a big issue. Yeah. Now I am known, I hope, in Denmark for being the one who also always focuses on the positive things, because I refuse to be the one who just complains about everything about autism, because it really isn't that bad, I think. So I always try to get like the positive story here. And the positive story is, apart from being able to hear the birds when I walk in a big city, is that there are also sounds that give me like extreme pleasure. And one of these sounds is, in Denmark, we have a siren that they use when we have like a fire with dangerous smoke. Then they ring out the siren and people have to go inside. And once a year, which is the best day of the year, they test the siren. Now, you can keep your Christmas and your New Year's Eve, but for me, the first Wednesday in May at noon is when they test the siren. Now, that's the real holiday. I always take a break from work and go outside so I can really feel the siren, because the siren makes my skin hum, like this really, really nice humming feeling all over my skin, up and down my back, up and down my arms and legs. Nothing sexual about it. It's just a really, really pleasurable feeling. Yeah, so sometimes I wonder if I've had a bad day at work, maybe I should just set a fire to a factory or something. No, I was joking. But then by the way, I feel the same way about bagpipes. This is really weird. And Pia, my friend, and I, we've just been to Scotland, and that was very nice, walking down the streets in Edinburgh with all the bagpipe players. Yeah. So and then I once tried to listen to some bagpipes on YouTube, because I thought that could be a way to improve my day. And then I listened on YouTube and it didn't work. Now, so what I assume is that it's not actually the sound of the bagpipes or the siren. It must be some kind of frequency in the air that my skin picks up on, because it has to be live, apparently. So if you know anyone who's single who plays the bagpipe, then I'm single too. I'm just saying. Yep. Yes. Now, moving on to my sense of sight. This is also, like I said, a big issue for me. I have a very sensitive sight. I use sunglasses like a lot, and not just when the sun is shining. But we have the eyelids, so it's not really, doesn't really feel as debilitating as my sense of hearing does. Now, first of all, the first thing I always say about my sense of my sensory issues with the sense of sight is that we have to remove fluorescent lights from the world entirely. I think many autistic people will agree with me on this. Fluorescent lights, not only can I actually hear them, they hum. So that's just another sound to add to the massive load of sounds that I can hear, but they flicker. Fluorescent light flicker. Now, I, as you can see, used to have a cat. He was called Ambrosius, by the way. And I took a video of him once drinking from the water tap, just for fun with my iPhone. And that was when the slow motion video on the iPhone was brand new. So I put it on YouTube. Now I have fluorescent lights in my bathroom. And the slow motion made it look, I'm going to show you this video in a little bit. So I put it on Facebook, the slow motion video of my cat, and I said, sorry for the quality of the light, but that's how fluorescent lights look in slow motion. And all my autistic friends was like, that's how fluorescent lights always look. So for those of you without autism, I'm going to show you how fluorescent lights looks for many people, not all, many people with autism. Now, how do we light most of our schools? In Denmark, most schools are lit with fluorescent lights. This means that we expect autistic children to spend 8 hours a day actually learning something in that light. That's very high demand for some children who are challenged enough already. So let's just take all fluorescent lights out of the world entirely. I have fluorescent lights in my apartment, apart from my bathroom. I have them in my kitchen. And then I also have like this gray, black, whitish, like tabletop on my kitchen. And when you have like flickering lights on a not even colored surface, and I turn on this light, then it looks like my entire kitchen is moving. So my dad, my sweet dad, he came and he installed real lamps with light with bulbs. This is great. Also, the upside of lamps is that usually they have like a screen, and this screen can be colored in the colors I like. I prefer my light to be yellowish, like warm in color. So all my lamp screens are like sand colors or yellowish or golden or like those colors. Because that's more comfortable for my eyes. I don't like blue lights very much. Also in my apartment, I have many little lamps and not like here we have big ceiling lamps. I don't have too many of those. I have a lot of little lamps instead, so I can just turn on like this and this and this on a day where if I've had a hard day at work or if I'm very tired in my head, I can turn on as much light as I can stand on that day. Now, I'm very sensitive to light, as you may have understood, but I'm also sensitive to color and movement, which especially the movement part is why I'm going to be an excellent driver. Because not meaning to sound like Rain Man, but I'm an excellent driver because not much can pass through my field of vision without me noticing. I mean, it's small things, and even if they're out on the side, I notice right away because movement is it's like my sense of hearing. I cannot just ignore it and say it has nothing to do with me. I just check. So I'm probably not gonna hit someone running out in front of my car because I've probably already seen them. Actually, when I took my driver's license test, there was a man on a bicycle who rode his bicycle out in front of me with the guy who I was taking the test with. He was sitting next to me, and I had already seen the bike and had brought the car to a safe halt. And I'm sure that guy just gave me my driver's license, the guy on the bike. So maybe I should send him flowers. Anyway, but colors, especially bright colors. Now, do you know, like we've already talked about being in the supermarket with my sense of hearing. Do you know how many colors they have in supermarkets? And none of those colors are like pastels. They're all like bright colors. They're high on contrast. They're high on like zigzag patterns because it's meant to get your attention. You're meant to look at their products. But for me, it feels like walking down and someone's tapping my shoulder all the time. Like I have to take it all in somehow. I do wish they'd start using pastel colors, or just like more tan and brown and yellowish colors, and not so much red and black and green. And yeah, but that's how it is. And the same thing was actually a problem when I was at the gym also, that I talked about before. Because have you ever seen gym clothes in pastel colors? No, they all have to be like pink and neon green and yellow, and it feels like someone's poking you in the eye when you're looking at it. And then in my gym, apparently those big strong guys, they cannot really lift anything if they can't admire themselves at the same time. So my gym had like walls with mirrors. All the walls had mirrors. So not only did that pink t-shirt poke me in the eye over here, but it also poked me in the eye over there and over there and over there, because there was mirrors everywhere. So on top of wearing like my earmuffs to the gym, I also wore sunglasses. And often in the beginning, at least, I also wore a cap so I could screen like my eyes. And there was once two elderly gentlemen who was laughing and pointing. They were being very loud, laughing and pointing and going, ha ha ha, she has a hangover, because I was wearing sunglasses and cap and earmuffs. And they were so loud that people were actually started looking at me, and I found it uncomfortable. So I went to them and I took off my earmuffs, and I took off my sunglasses, and I said, hello, my name is Louise. No, I don't have a hangover. I have autism, and because of my autism, sound and light can be painful for me. And they were like, oh, okay, interesting. Then the next week they were back there, and then they went, oh, she has a hangover again. And then sometimes I wonder who's really has the biggest disability. I use my sunglasses a lot. I use them in the supermarket. Not necessarily when it's sunshine. I use them really a lot, and I have a lot of them. And I also use my noise canceling earmuffs a lot. I use what I can to be in the world in a way that's comfortable for me. So if other people think that I look weird, or that I look like someone with a hangover, that's really their issue. I don't want to go to a supermarket and feel extra uncomfortable because some people think that I look weird. I mean, and unfortunately now we have the sunflower lanyard. You know that around the world, hopefully, that signals that I have a disability that cannot be seen on me. And this is a great big help for me, that people don't think I'm weird. Now they know I'm weird. So that's really nice. Yeah. We're going on to the sense of the feeling, like the tactile sense. This is a great big issue for many. I have at least I have the feeling that a lot of autistic people have sensory issues on their sense of touch. This has really resulted in like a prejudice that says that people with autism doesn't like to be touched. And this prejudice has had negative consequences for my dating life, because whenever guys hear that I have autism, they think I'm never gonna have anything with this girl because she's autistic and they don't like to be touched. So this is a bit. I would like to do something about that prejudice, but I know that many people don't like touch, and especially touch from strange people. I don't like strange people touching me either. But I do like to be touched in general, like hugs and stuff like this. I also know that many autistic people have problems with like seams on clothes. This is not an issue for me either. But I know that there's a great market of seamless clothes. So you can actually there are more aids available for you out there than there was like just 10 years ago. It's getting better. But the sense of feeling, I do have one issue though around my tactile, my sense of touch, and it is I have this really nice long blonde hair, and I never wear it outside a ponytail because I cannot stand the feeling of it on my neck, and I really think that I should just shave it all off. But I really like my long hair. I just don't like to feel it. Anyway, yeah. I don't have like I'm not one of those with great tactile issues. But when it comes to a sense of touch and sense of feeling in your skin, it also connects with your perception of pain. And I want to talk a little bit about this, because it's important to understand that to autistic people, even like slight touches like this, can actually cause physical pain. Sometimes it's better to have a more firm grip when touching someone with autism, because it can feel less painful for some. And what I have often heard described as my child is hysteric or he has a meltdown or something, it's really just sensory issues most of the time. And it's important to understand that our senses and our, in this case, our sense of touch is completely subjective. So just because it doesn't hurt you doesn't mean it doesn't hurt me. So always be curious to, like, when you see like what neurotypical people would describe as an autistic people being hysteric, always be curious into maybe there's a sensory issue here and this person actually experiences pain. Now I have a shift in my pain perception, which means that if I get a stomach ache, and this doesn't matter what stomach ache, if it's gas or if it's I've eaten something bad or if it's period cramps, I get very, very ill. I mean, cold sweats and fever, and I pass out and I vomit. And this was a major issue for me because I've had very severe menstrual cramps, so severe that when I had my period, I was spending the first 2 days lying in my bathroom with my head in the drain, so I wouldn't faint and vomit and be choked in my own vomit. I mean, it was really bad. I get some birth control pills now that has that part under control, but it's really hard going to a normal, what do you call them, a normal doctor as a GP. It's really a problem going to them and then telling them that I have period cramps, and they say, oh, you just take painkillers. But you know, when I've taken 20 painkillers and it's not even 8 o'clock in the morning, maybe we should talk about something else here. And my experience is that normal doctors don't know enough about autistic sensory issues. So they have difficulty understanding when I say that my period cramps are worse. You need to do something else because it cannot be done with painkillers. So this is an issue, and I mean, I've written a book about these sensory issues that I've actually given to my own doctor just to help her understand that what's normal for other people when it comes to pain isn't necessarily normal for me. Now, on the plus side of this, I have a lower sense of pain in my extremities, especially in my hands and feet. This is a great upside to me, at least, because in my free time, I'm a long distance runner. I usually show off by saying that I don't put on my shoes for less than 10 kilometers. It's not really true, but it's a great way to show off. I run like 10 to 15 kilometers twice a week. Oh shit, sorry, I just got a 5 minutes left note. Sorry for swearing. And when you do long distance running or even long distance hiking, which I also do, you lose toenails. And I'm sure that's why Pia held up the sign that I have 5 minutes left, because she hates it when I talk about the toenails. But when I walk like long distance, I can actually feel the toenail becoming loose, and I can even feel it slipping off. It doesn't hurt me. I mean, and I can just take off my shoes and take off the nail and just flick it away and then keep walking. Now, this is great for me because I can keep on walking and keep on running even though I don't have any toenails. But it's also something that I have to be aware of, that I have to check my feet and I have to check my hands, because once I cut off the tip of my thumb, and I only discovered that I'd done so when there was blood in my sores. So maybe if you have someone with similar sensory issues that you cannot really trust their perception of pain, maybe they just ask for a Band-Aid and they really have a cut off a limb almost. So maybe help to just check when they say I need a Band-Aid that everything is really okay. Yeah, and yeah. Now, also in the sense of feeling, and I know that I only have 5 minutes left, but I have to just at least touch this subject of interoception, because I've already promised you that I would do so. This also, I don't know what I was supposed to do. Interoception is the ability to feel feelings from the inside, hunger and having to go to the bathroom and warm and cold. I'm one of those people who's constantly cold. So when I take a drive with Pia and it's 25 degrees outside and it's sunny, then I still have seat warm in the car. So there's also an issue that about maybe autistic people need help actually feeling what they feel inside, whether it's pain or hunger. Maybe that we need a timer to remind us that we're hungry. Maybe we need a timer to remind us to go to the bathroom. Like when I'm driving, I go into hyper focus. So when I drive for a long distance, I don't feel that I have to pee. I don't feel hunger. I don't feel anything. I just drive. Which means that when I park my car in the garage, I really have to run to go to the bathroom. Yeah. Now, I'm going to skip that one and go straight to the final slide here. For me, managing my sensory issues is a bit like managing an iPhone with an old battery. I mean, I charge during the night, but I really don't have enough battery because of my sensory issues to go through the day. So I have to plan my day with breaks so I can go home and be in the charger, like if you know what I mean. So I plan this. I have a lot of structure in my everyday. I have a lot of routines to make sure that, like, when I've been to the supermarket, I don't have to go to work. I have to go home and just recharge my mental energy, because I've spent so much energy on sensory issues. It's also important to understand that sensory issues cannot be trained. They cannot be, some parents say, if we just play very loud music to him every day, then supermarket will be quiet. And it doesn't work like that. My experience is that my sensory issues get worse when I'm stressed, and they get better when I'm not stressed, which means that if you want to improve, like your son's sensory issues, stressing them by playing loud sounds is not the way to go. Manage the stress level, and then I have a lot less sensory issues than I do when I'm stressful. And then quiet. Usually when you get in a room and you ask people to be quiet, they stop talking. But you have to be quiet on. Think of quiet in Denmark. You can use that word on all the senses, and this means that maybe mom, who has an autistic child with the sensory issues on his side, maybe she has to change from her flowery dress to her black dress when she comes home from work, to give him like quiet time for his senses. Maybe black curtains so you can make the room dark. Like a way I make quiet for my tactile senses, that I change my clothes into my home clothes, like the big sweatpants and the big. You have to try to have some times of the day where you have as little or as comfortable sensory issues as possible. And I also just want to quickly just mention that some people, especially when they hear this lecture, actually they sort of get, oh, now Louise comes to visit us and we have to turn off the radio and we have to tiptoe around and everything has to be quiet and we have to have a dark room. But there's also the thing of doing too much. And I'm perfectly capable of asking you to turn off the radio if it bothers me. And we also need to be careful not to remove all sensory issues so that autistic people just end up dying from boredom. So instead of just removing sensory issues, you maybe be curious as to where are the positive sensory experiences, like me listening to bagpipes or wearing my comfortable clothes, or I like to bite in things that are a little bit chewy. Maybe do that when I've had a bad day at work, instead of just making the room like free of sensory impressions. Then and figure out where are the good sensory impressions, and then do that instead. Finally, I just want to make a little bit of advertising. This doesn't mean anything for you from abroad, except that if any of you knows any publishers, I have written a book about this. So this lecture is like the shortest possible version of what I have to say about sensory issues. I wrote an entire book about it, which is out, of course, in Danish. It hasn't been translated yet, I'm hoping. And then I want to say that I have written 5 books, one about stress, one about sexuality, one about sensory issues, one about emotions, and one about eating disorders. And there's my website. And then I want to end up saying that I hope you understood me, and I hope that you've learned something about how it can be like to live with sensory issues on a daily basis. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Louise. That was absolutely fantastic. And there was certainly no problem from my perspective at understanding that. Although I've got to say, I'm with Pia on not wanting to know too much more about toenails. But there we go. We can just leave that one for now. So we do have a question that I want to just pick up on. But I'll let you just have a little glass of water or have a moment to just get your breath.
I'm good. You just bring it on.
Oh, no worries at all. And if anybody else has anything else they'd like to ask or any points to make, can you just please whiz that in the chat? So this question is from Anita, who is actually from the same city as you are, Louise, apparently. So I'll let you have a connection afterwards as required. And this actually comes from her son, who's listening as well at the same time, asking, how do you feel about LED lights as opposed to the sort of strobe lights that you're talking about?
Well, I prefer like the old-fashioned light bulbs, but I know that LED lights is better because of they use less electricity, as far as I know. But a lot of LED lights is very white, and it's uncomfortable for my eyes. So if I can, I just choose regular bulbs. Or try to get LED lights in a yellowish color if it's possible. I also know that many autistic people have a high. I also do that. I use fairy lights, like little light bulbs on a string, so that you sort of get the light like spread out. So it's not like one sharp source of light, but it's like a lot of little ones. So.
Yeah, fantastic. No, and I think again what really came through so much is this idea about what's so important for individuals isn't necessarily the same for everybody. And I think that's why these sort of sessions where we draw on the real lived experience of individuals allows us to get a much better understanding of what it is like for different people.
Well, obviously, other people out there doesn't have the same issues as me, but I'm hoping that my books and my talks can make people curious and maybe go home and say, well, Louise said she felt like this. Do you feel like this? And then have the talk about sensory issues at home. And sometimes it's easier to have the talk when you have more concrete questions to ask, instead of just asking, how does your sensory issues affect you? That can be a difficult question for autistic people to answer. Yeah. So maybe saying, well, Louise can hear every sound in the supermarket. Can you? Yeah.
So there's a point here, not so much a question, but more about the books that if they are translated in English, I would love them myself to share with the people I support over here in Australia. So
thank you.
We most definitely need to explore that option.
I'm really hoping that they'll be picked up in English.
And that I've just been having a few thoughts about that myself, really, as the presentation been going on. So I'll try when I get a moment to articulate those to you and see what we can do. Because I think again, I think that the real sort of relatableness of that session, which obviously because I know you, is going to come out in the books as well, isn't it? In reality, it is something that I think really allows people to be drawn in and have that sort of inside out perspective, as we might call it, which I think is fantastic. And lots of really positive messages coming through on the chat there. And there's a good point there about swearing words are great under stress and meanings and so on, and I think again.
Sorry, I was swearing. It was just I wasn't even near being 5 minutes left in my presentation when I got the 5 minutes left sign. So yeah.
No, I think as well, certain words and certain phrases and things punctuate things, don't they? So you know where you're at. And I think different people have some kind of view that these things shouldn't happen, where I think we should be ourselves in essence. So that's absolutely no problem at all from our perspective. So one sound that my son has a lot of trouble with is the turbine sounds that a vacuum cleaner makes. So if you think of a vacuum cleaner, you know, hoovering up,
I have issues
and
with
the
that
sound
as
of
well.
that viewer,
Yeah.
yeah,
And really my solution is that I don't vacuum a lot. And I have wooden floors, so usually I just sweep. And then once in a while, when I have the energy, I do vacuum. And then usually it's with my noise canceling headphones, and then loud music. But for me, it's not the turbine as much as that noise that when you bring the vacuum cleaner back and forth across the floor. But still, the vacuum cleaner has been an issue for me. And you know, I live alone, so as I'm sure if you ask my mother, then vacuuming as often as I do is absolutely not acceptable. You should vacuum a lot more often. But she doesn't have my sensory issues, so I sweep the floor, and when I don't think it's enough, then I vacuum, because I prioritize taking care of myself higher than having a home that maybe my mother feels is presentable. Yeah, I have so few guests, and my
you
dog
know,
doesn't care.
I think that's such a fantastic insight. You know, the self priority, topping over other people's expectations of external factors and the like, which I
And
think
I'm
again
really
is so
doing this
important.
increasingly over the years. The thing of putting myself first, because I've been in Denmark, we call it a pleaser, like one of those, especially women do this, I think, do everything correctly to please what they perceive as others' expectations of them. But the thing is that when I do that, I get my eating disorder back, I get anxiety, I get depression. But when I say this is not my problem, I do what's best for me. I really have become very selfish over the last few years, and increasingly so. But I also get higher and higher quality of life by putting myself first, and what everybody else thinks that I should is their problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, there's greater risk, isn't there, of masking and the like with those sort of challenges. And I think that sometimes is often the challenge within educational systems and the like, where people are trying to force compliance and things which promote those views. So that was beautifully articulated. I think I might be sniffing that little summary at the end there for lots of things I do, which was fantastic. And you know, and I think the other thing, just to finish off, because you know I am conscious of time and keeping things tight and things like that, and I think there's a great point there from Nina, who's fantastic to see online as well. Self-respect, you know, and that idea about really valuing yourself, I think, is sometimes difficult for some people, isn't it? Depending upon the environment or the setting that they're engaged with, etc., etc. But I think the thing that you know you said right at the beginning, which for me is also very positive in anything I get the fortune to involve with, the power of the positive, you know. And I think a good friend of mine, and one that many people online will know, Dean Beadle, talks about autistic joy, you know, and things that make him feel great. And I think again the power of the positive is something that's really difficult to navigate sometimes when you're overwhelmed and there's lots of demands, and obviously all the topics that we touched on tonight cover in that area. So I just want to finish off by firstly saying thank you very much, Louise. That was absolutely fantastic, and I know for a fact that many people will be valuing looking at that again, because it's recorded, of course, and the opportunities to explore that, and the people who obviously haven't been able to watch it live. I do want to just finish off by saying there's a couple of events that we've got coming up at Studio 3, a web conference, which is on the 24th of October, I believe. And I think hopefully a little poster will come up now. So the web conference there, I believe, features Kelly Marler, the boss, Andy McDonald, and Peter Van Meulen. And you can sign up for that online through the Studio 3 website, and we'll try and just put a little link in the chat now as well, if that's okay, Rachel. If you sign up for that and can't attend on the day itself, I believe you've got a couple of weeks then to look back through that. And also the second part of that flyer is a full day with Peter Van Meulen. I know colleagues in Denmark probably have heard Peter speak a lot, but I think people certainly in the UK, you know, it's in Birmingham, so it's pretty accessible as far as trains and planes and the like, and it's sort of 100 quid for the day on December the 11th. So I'd wholly recommend, if you can, exploring the opportunity of hearing Peter speak for a whole day. unfortunately, colleagues in Australia, it may be a bit of a flight too far for one day before Christmas, but I do think the online sessions are very much well worthwhile exploring. So the links are in the chat there. If you want, you can find everything on the Studio 3 website, along with all the free webinars we're doing and ones that are coming up again. I just want to say once again, thank you very much, Louise, for a fantastic session. I'm so delighted. You said, yes, I'll be up for doing this in English as well when we met last time, because I really do think that's a super session. And I know from the chat and the comments, that's been very much reflected in other people's views. So thank you very much again, and to Bodil, of course, and safe evenings, everybody, and very best wishes. And we hope to see you online at another event soon. Take care. Bye-bye.